Hey, one of my favorite guests is here, Governor Jesse Ventura. Just got a new TV show called, and he's the perfect host for this, Conspiracy Theory. But it's on something called True TV. My conspiracy theory is they're trying to hide the governor's show. Governor, what do you say? Come on in and take a load off your feet. Guy just walked here from Mexico.
No, I haven't gone yet.
Oh,
I'm doing all this crap.
When are you going?
Next week.
Put him on there. They get the microphone right in there.
Okay, next week.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I head out next week.
My conspiracy theory is they're trying to hide your TV show. What is True TV? I never even heard of this.
Well, True TV used to be Court TV.
Oh, right.
Now they call it True TV. It just changed names, but it's Court TV. It's part of It's if you got the satellite, it's right between TBS and TNT.
You're the perfect guy for something like this. You're full of conspiracy theories. And for you
Well, that's because I don't believe the government anymore, Howard. They've lied to me so often in my life that they have no credibility.
Help me out with a couple of things here, Governor.
Are we on the air now?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if we were
I never
not.
talk when I'm off the air.
Oh, okay.
Are you kidding? I don't waste anybody's time with talking. The only time it's worth talking is when you're on the air.
Yeah.
Trust me. I've learned that in my life. Jesse Ventura is hosting Conspiracy Theory on True TV, formerly Court TV. But
has he already taped all of the shows?
7 of them.
All right.
Oh, absolutely.
You like this better than being governor?
Yeah.
Are you the guy who comes up with the content? Do you sit there and go, here's a conspiracy theory I want to tackle?
No. People come to me.
Right.
The people with the conspiracy come to me like as a last resort. They say, you're the only one that can bring this to light, da-da-da-da. Then I take it to what I have. You'll see it on the show. We have a war room where I have 5 or 6 other investigators, and we hash over the conspiracy, and then I give out assignments. Okay, you got to go talk to this, you talk to that. Then we come back with when we've achieved that, we do a few final interviews, and we leave it up to you, the viewer, to decide, does this conspiracy have merit or not?
Did they get interested in you hosting this because of your controversial stance on 9/11 and what happened to the World Trade Center, that you believe it was a conspiracy conducted by the government?
Well, I believe that you can't prove anything, Howard, because all of the evidence is destroyed.
Right.
So there's no way to prove a thing. But I believe this. I believe that if our government wasn't part of it, they certainly knew it was going to happen and did nothing to stop it.
That is the most remarkable thing. I mean, if that was ever proven true, there'd be a revolution in this country.
Well, but I don't think so, because I think that
people don't do anything.
And we don't want to admit we've been bamboozled. No one wants to admit, you know what?
They said these same things about the attack on Pearl Harbor. That, the administration let it happen?
I've heard that.
Well, they needed to get in the war because nobody wanted to go to the war, and they had to change public sentiment back then, and what better way than be attacked? And if it worked once, wouldn't it work again?
Yeah, well, I mean, if that's the case. But, you make a good point. When you say that the public wouldn't rise up if that was proven true, you might be right, because the other point you made about Afghanistan, you said they should bring back the draft, which I happen to agree with. If they brought back the draft, the war would be over in a day.
Yeah, it'd be over in a day.
Because everyone would be out protesting.
Yep.
And everyone would be focused on what was happening in the war.
Yep.
Oh,
because it doesn't affect you.
If your son has to go, you forget it. You're going to definitely, like Vietnam, the reason that revolution occurred was because I knew I had to go, and that's when everyone freaked out.
Well, you were smart enough. I went.
I know, man. I mean, well, I actually, my mother discussed it. I'm a little younger than you, so I didn't.
Aren't you too tall?
I don't know, but I remember they had the draft thing, with the lottery.
Yeah.
And my number was about to come up, but the war was just winding down.
Well,
so I never
my
had to make
number
the big
came
decision.
up. I was in boot camp, and it was 273. I'd have never gone.
Wow.
See, I enlisted at 18, and they always take you on your 19th birthday is the one that they did it on.
Did your parents advise you to not go to war?
Yeah.
Or were they a big, strong influence in your life, or were they kind of just not that great?
They were, Howard, but here was what I faced. My father was a World War II veteran with 7 bronze battle stars in Europe. He fought in every battle. He fought at Rommel on North Africa, Normandy, Battle of the Bulge, Remagen Bridge, Anzio,
So
and
it was
Berlin.
a sign of macho for you?
No. My father opposed the war. My father didn't want me to go.
Right.
He was the opposite. He had been there and knew. My dad used to say about Vietnam, he goes, it's bullshit. Somebody's making money.
Right.
He said, that's all that war is. Well, but here's it. My brother was a SEAL before me, so how do I sit at the dinner table?
Right.
And not only that, my mother is a World War II vet.
Well, you know,
My mom was a nurse in North Africa.
because
in
my
World
mom
War
had
II.
discussed Vietnam with me. She sat me down and said, "Listen, if the war continues, you're not going. You're going to Canada." Which freaked me out too. I was like, "Canada?
Yeah,
Is
what's
that,
up there?"
Where's that? I don't even know where
That's
that
a
is.
safe haven,
Yeah, but
Howard.
she said, "You got to go." She goes, "This war's bullshit.
Yeah.
You cannot go and die there."
Well, I was on Larry King the other night with Ben Stern, and I brought up the fact, too, we need to implement a war tax so that everybody feels some pain, because people should feel pain when you're at war.
Right.
Well, we're at war in two places, and nobody's here's feeling any pain. Well, Ben Stein says, you can't do that. You can't implement a tax during a recession. And it didn't come to me then, but I should have looked at him and said, oh, so we're going to send the kids over to die,
Yeah.
and we're also going to make them pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, that-
because we're not paying for it, we'll make them pay for it.
what did you think when you saw that the president has just ordered 30,000 more troops?
I'm outraged over it.
Outraged.
Outraged.
Because you're saying, listen, this is Vietnam all over again. There's
Yep.
no way we can win this thing.
Not
you
o-
even said use drones and drop bombs, but don't send guys
Not
over
only
there.
this, Howard, but if you truly want to fight terrorism,
Yes.
you don't fight it by invading a country and occupying it over there. That creates more terrorists. You fight it with good police work here. Like these last guys they caught
Yes.
caught them because of good police work, not us over invading countries.
So what did you think when the president's own security was
Breached,
compromised
yeah.
by this couple in Washington, D.C.?
It shows you that we better look out in our backyard before we start venturing out into other people's backyards. I mean,
We can't protect our own president. How do we protect the homeland, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, we should be protecting him, and I'll tell you what, some people should get fired over that.
Will there be a firing over that?
Well, nobody got fired over 9/11.
Can you believe that?
No, 9/11 was if you believe what they told us on 9/11, it was a catastrophic failure of our air defense system.
Right.
And not one person was fired or demoted.
Why is that in government? No one ever gets fired.
I'll tell you why. Because if someone gets fired, then there's going to be an investigation. If you don't want an investigation, don't fire no one.
Thus the
Because then everyone goes back to work Monday and life moves on.
Right. So you're saying it's all part of the cover-up.
Yep. Somebody should have got fired for 9/11. If I'd have been the president, someone would have lost their job because it was a catastrophic failure of our air defense system.
I have been saying in this Tiger Woods situation, I'm going to shift topics for one
All
second.
right.
In the Tiger Woods situation, I think the guy ought to come clean. In other words, he should just say what happened. It's clear he was having affairs with women. Now 2 more women have stepped forward. The guy's got $1 billion industry going. He's got Nike. He's got every endorsement I could never get because I'm a scumbag, and he's this great guy. Meanwhile, I'm not screwing anyone behind anyone's back.
Not now.
Not now, anyway. Not today. But the point
Do you know
is,
something?
Yeah,
He's
probably.
on the conspiracy theory.
Yeah, he's got a theory about that.
No. After spending a few hours with Howard, that's all it takes.
You know as well as I do. We learned from Richard Nixon. Just come clean. The more you fight it, the worse it gets, right?
Yes, but you know what? I would do what Tiger's doing.
You would.
It's no one's business. Somebody
Stonewall?
needs to draw a line in the sand and say, "Hey, there's a difference between what the public deserves to know and what they don't." And as a public figure, which you and I both are,
Yes.
I find it 75% of the polls say, 75% of the people say, leave it. It's
Leave it
his
alone.
business. Leave it alone. But you got these journalists out there. It's like one of my security guys when I was governor. One of my security guys said to me one day. He said, "Governor, remember about the media. They'll eat their young."
Right.
And that's
Should-
what you're faced with here.
Should Tiger resign?
From what?
I don't know. Seems like he's got to resign.
And the point is, here's the other thing. This accident took place on private property.
Well, let me
But
ask you
was
this.
the
not-
neighbors called the police. He hit a neighbor's tree.
But it was still on private property. It was not on a public road.
That's true.
If I were him, I'd even fight the ticket.
Really?
Yes.
He just
because-
paid it.
Well, he should have fought it because they cannot give you a ticket unless you're on the public road, and his vehicle was never on a public road.
What? Why is a guy worth almost $1 billion, Tiger Woods? Why does he live so close to his neighbors? Shouldn't he be on some big estate or like you in Mexico? With,
He does. Those are huge estates, I think, or
I
whatever.
saw aerial photograph. He's got a neighbor. He hit the guy's tree. He shouldn't even
Yeah,
have a
he was in
neighbor's
his
tree.
driveway. He
Should have
hit
hit
a
his own
tree.
goddamn tree.
And it wasn't
I
his.
don't know.
You're supposed to know everything. You're the governor.
Some rich people live in penthouses down in downtown from New York.
That's right.
You know,
that's what they do.
Some people like people.
The first episode of your TV show.
Yep.
The first episode of your TV show deals with an investigation of the HAARP. Robin, you know what that is?
The HHARP.
An answer in question form. Robin did terribly on Jeopardy.
The HHARP?
HAARP.
HAARP. No, I don't know what that
The
is.
High Frequency Active Oral Research Program.
What?
Aurora. What the hell is that?
Even Howard could turn that sexual.
Yeah, right.
He could
The oral
No,
what?
it's called. What it's called is HARP.
Okay.
You say this is a massive military-run program in Alaska. What are they doing up there? What's the
I don't
conspiracy
know. Well,
theory?
here's the conspiracy of it.
Okay.
It's a group of, and this will fit right down your line, Howard, because of radio.
Right.
All right. The government only allows a radio station max 50,000 watts.
Right.
That's the biggest you can be.
Right.
Well, this is a group of radio antennas, 380 of them.
Yes.
Each one of them putting out 50,000 watts to combine. And they send low-level radio frequencies up to the ionosphere, which is that layer right between space and here.
Yes.
They then ricochet them back down to Earth, and they become very powerful. This can knock planes out of the air. It can control the weather. It can do all. It can, and get this: its frequency is set at the identical frequency as the human brain.
So what are you saying?
Now, do you think that that's by happenstance or design? What they can do, it's mind control. They can send low-level frequencies. I got a demonstration of it from this doctor that wrote the book, Angels Don't Play This Harp. And that's what this is about.
You're telling me the government is controlling our brainwaves.
I'm telling you.
What was
a
the
secret
demonstration?
program in Alaska. What did you see in the demonstration?
All right, in the demonstration, this Dr. Begich, whose brother's a U.S. Senator.
Go ahead.
He has a thing like HARP with a CD player with two wires that come off to flat discs.
Mm-hmm.
He would simply put those discs here on me, and I would plug my ears.
Yes.
And I could hear the music, but not through my ears, but out of the front of my brain.
So you're saying you heard things through your brain, but not through your ears?
Not through my ears, and that's what this thing can do.
But how does that program?
Couldn't-
So it could be a constant message.
Well,
you'd
it could be
getting,
if they shoot this stuff down over masses of people, all the masses of people could be getting these subconscious whatever into their brains where they wouldn't even know it.
Yeah.
Why doesn't
And yet-
Tiger Woods use that as an excuse? Say
Honey,
that his
I
brain
didn't
was. Why not? But what you're claiming?
Well, here's the deal, too, Howard.
what does the government say this program
Okay,
is?
they call this an unclassified research center. Well, they're lying there because they wouldn't let me in. If it's unclassified, how come I can't get in?
You went there
We're
and
right at the gates, and we were denied access. We tried 4 times through the government to get in. They wouldn't let us go
you are
there.
a former governor.
That's
you
right.
couldn't get in.
And I'm also a former Navy SEAL with a top secret security clearance.
And you could
and
not
I
get
could
in.
not get in.
So who do you think's getting in?
Now, get this. HARP, guess who finances it?
Go ahead.
DARPA, the most secret part of the Pentagon, to the tune of $250 million a year to study what? The Northern Lights? Now, here's the conspiracy. Do you remember the tsunami that hit Indonesia?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember how there was no warning to it?
Right.
Yes.
Normally, there's major warnings. There's an earthquake or something that causes it. Well, when HARP is, it's powered by 5 diesel engines the size of locomotives. Like
And you think they
locomotives.
caused the
No.
tsunami?
Well, that's one of the conspiracies is that they could have been like one
Could have been
guy.
an accident.
Yeah, they could have been testing it out, and this is the end result. And what are they going to do? Come out and say, "Oops, oops," and this thing's scary. It's like the doctor says to me, he said, "Governor, what you have here, this is the death ray."
You know, it could be because think about it. You know, here today I'm reading in the newspaper. You know how they tell women to go get mammograms?
Yep.
They're saying today in the newspaper it causes breast cancer, all this low-level radiation. They don't know what they're doing. They invent these things. Who the hell knows? It could have been an accident.
They're rolling the dice.
They're rolling the dice with our lives.
Yep. Well, and that here's the thing about what happened in Indonesia. When they crank HARP up, you see the northern lights. That's how powerful. It also heats up the ionosphere. Could that be global warming?
I don't know.
Could this thing be heating it up there? And, well, here's the deal in Indonesia. There's witnesses who said right before the tsunami hit, they saw the northern lights.
Let me ask you something. Obama's a liberal kind
Now,
of
wait
guy.
a minute.
Yeah.
In Indonesia, you can't see the northern lights normally.
So let me ask you this. Obama's a liberal kind of guy. You think he's the president. He must know this is going on. Wouldn't he step in and say, listen, I just learned of something?
Well, Obama's just another Democrat. You're learning that.
Well, that's true.
Didn't he run on a big thing of change?
Yes.
Well, he
Anybody
not
see
only-
any change?
No.
Not only did he run on
Okay.
a thing of change, but he said exactly what you said when he was running, that wars in Afghanistan and Iraq are increasing terrorism.
That's
yet
right.
he's escalating the war.
Well, what does that tell you?
What should his speech been the other night? Should it have been, hey, look, we can't win this thing. This is like Vietnam. Rather than drag this out for another 5 years and risk 30,000 more troops, we're leaving.
That's what I would have
Could it
did.
have been that simple?
Well, it's like Ron Paul said. Everybody says you can't leave. It's so complicated. And I love what Representative Paul said. He said, hey, we marched in. We can march out. It's that
And what about
simple.
this notion? I saw one senator saying, listen, we started this thing. We can't say to the enemy, the terrorists, we're leaving. We can't do that because it's going to affect our security here at home. It's going to send a message that we're weak. What about that argument?
Well, that's what they used in Vietnam, too,
Right.
didn't they?
Yes, they did.
And it worked, didn't it?
It didn't work at all.
So if something works, use it again. Well, you know what angers me, Howard?
Would it upset you if the Taliban just walked right back in and started running things in Afghanistan again?
Well, let me tell you this. The Taliban actually did the largest war on drugs in history.
because
When they went in, Afghanistan produces 90% of the world's heroin.
right.
The Taliban came in and put all those heroin guys in jail.
I thought they were running the whole Taliban.
yeah, everybody was telling
heroin.
us they
That's
were
what they're telling you
selling
here.
heroin.
You think the
Taliban put the drug dealers in jail. When we got over there, we let them out because we needed them for an ally. Now the heroin business is back up. And let's remember something. All this illegal drug money is filtered right through the international banks. Do you think there's a correlation between what happened to the banks and the fact that the heroin industry was shut down for 2 years?
Oh, then we need
So
it.
All
you're
that
saying-
dirty money.
You're saying this with a straight face that the banking industry was affected by the lack of heroin.
Yeah.
Because there's so much dirty money going through the
There's
banks.
so much laundered money,
Wow.
billions of dollars that go through the international banks. Of
that it actually
laundered-
collapsed the banking system.
Well, it could have helped lead to it because all of a sudden, if they are not getting these billions of dollars, Howard,
Wow.
you know, and now it's back up and running, and our economy's coming back again, and the heroin industry is back up at full force again. The poppy growing.
All right.
So it's actually a heroin war we're fighting.
That's why Artie hates the Taliban.
It
They
could be.
ruined the heroin business.
It could be. I don't know, but that's just one of the things that goes on. That and like for me, my government's lied to me so much they have no credibility.
When did you start realizing the government lied to you?
What were the lies?
Because you were a patriot.
Well-
You were a guy who was a Navy SEAL. You were a guy who served his country. When did you realize everything was a lie?
Vietnam.
That's what that did it.
That started it.
Right.
And then the last one.
You
for
realized
me,
everyone was sort of incompetent.
The last one for me was 2004 when I was teaching at Harvard. That's when Robert McNamara came through and admitted the Gulf of Tonkin incident never happened.
That's right.
Now, that's the incident for the young people out there that don't know that got us full-fledged into the Vietnam War, where 58,000 of our generation died and probably 1 million Vietnamese over something that never happened.
It was fabricated so that they could escalate the war.
Yeah, so that,
and that's why you
like
believe
weapons
9/11.
of mass destruction,
Right.
like ties to Al Qaeda in Iraq, all manufactured to
all
get
bullshit.
us into war. All bullshit.
Possibly 9/11, you say, was
Yeah.
all part of it.
Well, could be.
Yep.
Could be. Well, let me ask you this. Here's a simple way to look at it, Howard. Our government and our system of law, we have a system you have to go through, correct?
Yes.
A rule of law.
Yes.
All right. How can we convict someone before indicting them? Which is what we've done with bin Laden. We've convicted him,
Right.
yet the government has never gone in front of the grand jury. They have never presented any evidence and had the grand jury of citizens bring down an indictment.
Hasn't bin Laden himself admitted that
No, initially 1 week after the event, he said to the AP he had nothing to do with it.
And you might be right. It's true. We just hear the name bin Laden and assume.
Well, let's remember what my son said to me one day. Bin Laden worked for the CIA. He even
Right.
had a name. He was an operative. There's an old saying, once in the CIA, always in the CIA.
He was an ally in Afghanistan when the Russians were fighting.
Yeah.
And, yes.
And all of a sudden now he's, how convenient.
You say you've been going around saying something about Sarah Palin. I agree. Whether I think she's a lightweight. I don't think she knows a thing in the world. But the most offensive thing, of course, is the fact that she quit being the governor. You don't quit midterm and say you're somehow a patriot for quitting.
Yeah, and not only that, but what a violation to all the voters of Alaska.
Of course.
I mean, that's a contract.
Why do you think she quit? Because she smelled the money out there?
She smelled the money and she wants to go after higher office.
And would you ever vote for a quitter?
Never.
Never. Me
Never.
neither.
Never. Because if the going gets tough, will she quit again?
She'll quit again and go out on the circuit.
It's like I said, she'd never be a frogman.
No.
Once you utter the words, I quit, you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
There ain't no second chance. You're out of there. And I'll tell you this, Howard, I remember every guy I graduated with from BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training.
Yes.
I remember every guy I graduated with. I do not remember one guy today who quit.
Right. And that's a lot tougher than being governor, right, Governor?
Oh.
Yeah. What is a governor's ID card?
It's an ID that I have that states that I was the governor of Minnesota.
And you renew that all the time because you live in Mexico,
Yeah.
and it helps you with the Mexican.
I call it the get out of jail free card.
Right. When the Mexicans start hassling you, when the
Well,
Mexican
the
agents.
federales
Right.
and President Fox and President Calderon are trying to clean this up. They're
Right.
doing the best because it hurts tourism.
Right.
But what happens is the federales, which are the federal police, they will pull you over and they'll trump up some charges on you. And of course, for 500 pesos or $50,
You could drop the charges.
They can drop the charges and you can go on your way.
In other words,
Well,
you could be having sex in the back of the car with all your children, and you give them a couple of bucks, and they'll look the other way.
Pretty much.
Right.
And so, but you understand that when you live there.
Right.
See, the government's corrupt, and you accept that. Where up here, we are under this notion our government's not corrupt.
I always believed in our government. I really, really did. I mean,
We all did.
You're
We all
saying that
do.
in the past tense, Howard. have you
No,
now?
I see so much incompetence now as I get older, and I see what's going on. I see who runs things, and I realize these guys could give a crap. And I'll tell you something. I'm not anti. I see these senators on TV. They're bright guys. A lot of them seem very, very sincere. Call me naive, but I think they are. I think there are people who genuinely want to serve the public and serve the public interest. But the system is so corrupt. And so full of these guys who receive payments and these lobbyists that it's almost impossible not to be.
So now what do? We have a failed system.
How do you explain a system where a guy like Gerald Ford, who was a public servant his entire life, leaves the presidency a millionaire?
Yeah.
How do you explain a system like that? How did he become a millionaire? Nixon, same thing. B.B. Rebozo, the whole connection. How does that happen?
Well, it's because, Howard, we have a system based upon the concept of panhandling and bribery.
Yes. I read the quid pro quo. When Reagan got out of office, the Japanese brought him over for a $2 million speaking engagement. So what that implies is when you're president, if you're good to us, when you get out, don't worry, we'll give you $2 million.
Yeah, we'll take care of you.
We'll take care of you.
Yeah, that's what happens to all of them. Like you said, you make a great point, Howard. How can someone who spends 40 years of their life in elected office making maybe 50 grand a year?
That's it.
And they end up multimillionaires.
That's right.
I guess they got good investors.
Yeah.
They got good financial planners.
Well,
When
the
you-
Clintons didn't even have any money when they got out of office. What kind of financial planning do you do there?
That's right. They were taken well care of. When you were governor,
Yep.
There were plenty of people probably offering you lots of money to
No.
take their position.
No.
What's
No.
with you? How come you didn't?
Well,
get
when I
those?
ran, Howard, I only raised $300,000 to get elected.
Amazing.
And when I got elected, the first thing I told my staff was, look, I didn't take any PAC money. I didn't take any special interest money. Therefore, I will not meet with a lobbyist. I never
Wow.
met with a lobbyist for 4 years.
There was no opportunity to sort of get you in the back
Never.
pocket.
Because I said they didn't elect me. What do I need to talk to them for?
Were you tempted?
No. Not
You're
at
an
all.
honest man. You're a true patriot.
Well, I went and got jobs on the weekend. Remember how they ridiculed me because
Yes.
I'd go out and do wrestling and I did the XFL on the weekend? Well, I went out and did above-board jobs where I worked.
Right.
And yet they ridiculed me and attacked me for that. But at the time, Howard, I owned a horse ranch where I'd bale hay.
Yes.
When I'd bale hay for $3 a bale, there was nothing said. If I spent all weekend baling hay and making
remember-
$3 a bale, oh, that was fine.
I remember when you were governor, they were ridiculing you for taking those jobs. And,
Yeah.
you make a good point. Originally in government, when this government was set up, I'm talking about the origin, George Washington.
Sure.
All these, senators, congressmen, everyone. They were working guys who'd go to Washington and vote, and then they go home and work.
Yep.
There was no idea that you had made this into a full-time position with all the accoutrements of limos and helicopters and staff.
Healthcare, great
stuff.
healthcare.
Yeah.
And so you were ridiculed for doing this.
Yeah.
You just went out and said, I got to make a living, too. I'm not getting paid on the side.
I'll put it to you this way, Howard. When I was governor, I made $120,000 a year.
Right.
All right. Cut that in half. We know taxes.
That's right.
All right. Get this. They have the governor's mansion, right?
Yes.
Well, I got charged for every meal my family eats there.
No kidding.
Deducted off my check.
Is that true?
Yes.
Why you and no one else?
No, they all get it.
They do.
Well, at least in Minnesota. I don't know how other states are set up, but every 2 weeks I would have to say how many meals my family ate there. And it's cheap, but they still deduct it off your check. Plus, the car, my official governor's car.
Yeah.
I got to pay for that too.
Now wait a second.
Yeah.
I see these governors running
to and from my house is not work.
So how do they get around
So wait,
all that?
I told them, I said, look, if this is going to be deducted from my check, then I will drive my private car to the Capitol, then I'll get in the governor's car. Well, of course, public safety went ballistic.
Right.
It's a catch-22. We can't have you in a private car. You've got to be in a protected car with everything to protect you, the sirens, the phones, all that stuff. So it's a catch-22. They make you be in this car, and then they deduct it from your paycheck.
Don't you think maybe you were singled out in some way because I don't think they liked you. You were an independent. You didn't answer to anybody. Maybe,
sure.
I can't believe that some of these governors, the lifestyles they're living, they're able to pay off all this stuff.
Well, I can only speak to Minnesota. Now, the other 49 states may be operated totally different, but in the state of Minnesota, every meal my family ate at the governor's residence is deducted from my paycheck. So, Howard, getting back to the original story, all right, I'm making 120. Half of it goes to taxes. That gets me to 60.
Go ahead.
These deductions probably take another 10,000 from me.
Sure.
So I'm being the governor for $50,000 a year. Well, I don't know, and I'm sure living in the Hamptons, you couldn't survive on $50,000 a year.
Well, you said, hey, I'm going to go out and work.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I'm used to a different lifestyle. If I get a job and you know what else? I only worked on the weekends, and in my entire 4 years in office, the Capitol was never open on one weekend.
Well, let me tell you something. That's something to be applauded, that the fact that you went out and made an honest living.
But how do you get ridiculed for being a hard worker?
And then how do you figure that these other guys are all getting wealthy while they're in office?
Yeah.
So they're up to something you weren't up to.
I'm beginning to believe that mind control is in effect because people are buying all kinds of things that don't make any sense at all.
Probably these radio waves are hitting us right now.
And what I'm saying is not even under my control.
I got to tell you, Governor, just the other day I was saying, sometimes I like to sit and think, but I'm finding it harder and harder. Nothing happens.
No, that's called old age, Howard.
Oh, okay. I just sit here and think and nothing happens, Robin. I can't believe it.
I'm thinking.
Exactly. Anyway, look. Hey, I meant to ask you another question.
Sure.
So they're talking about...
By the way, let me keep your train of thought, but I got to tell you, in my travels through the country, I get more people to come up to me all the time and say, you and Howard Stern are the best interview I've ever heard on radio.
We're terrific together. We're good together.
No.
We make... we have chemistry.
There you go.
Make radio go.
If you were a woman, I'd ask you out. I'm not kidding. I don't know any girls like you.
Not that tall.
I wouldn't think you do, Howard.
No, I don't.
Not quite like me.
Not like you. You're a special gal. Governor, they are talking about remaking The Predator.
Yeah.
A classic movie that you are in.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I've seen it maybe 12 times.
Thanks.
It's a great cast. And The Predator, I mean, come on.
Oh, yes.
It's fantastic.
Great movie.
I say leave it alone. What do you say?
To me, it's I kind of view it as a compliment. Because, look, they've remade all great classics, and many of them. They come back 20 years later and
they've
redo
screwed
them in
up
25.
a bunch of them.
But aren't you
they
afraid,
usually always do.
But aren't you afraid the kids out there are not going to see the original now?
No, because they, and they can't bring us back because we're all in our 60s or late 50s. It's pretty hard to go.
I'd like to see you guys now at 60 fight the Predator.
Yeah, tromping through the jungle.
Is the Predator 62?
Try to, they'd have the Predator with gray dreadlocks.
Yeah.
But no, I kind of just view it as an achievement compliment that if the film was that good that they will come back 25 years later and do another version of it. That to me is a compliment.
Did you see the film Predator versus Alien?
No.
I was very excited about this film. And as you know, in the film, Predator and Alien fought. And who did you think would win if Alien fought Predator?
I'm biased.
You
I
would think
suppose I'd
Predator
pick
would win.
Predator.
I felt Predator would win.
After all, he killed me, so.
Yeah. Yes, he did kill you, and beautifully he killed you. The Predator, I believe, because of his brain and his weaponry,
Okay.
can fight Alien. But in the movie, it was not conclusive. They never came to a real conclusion.
Well, that's
Yeah,
because
but
they're looking for a sequel.
Right.
It's like
But didn't-
wrestling, Howard.
Right.
You always
Predator-
got to have 4 or 5 matches before you give them the finale.
Absolutely.
But Predator also got the assistance of the humans, right?
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Predator became the baby face.
Yeah.
Right. Listen, Governor, you've said a lot today. You've really said a lot.
We're done already?
I don't know. We went
What
about an
time
hour.
is it?
We did about it. How
Have we
long did we go?
really?
About an hour.
Okay.
But maybe, I don't know. I don't know how long.
What time is it now?
It's 9:01.
I wasn't watching the time.
Okay, and we started
Had a
at
good
what
time.
time? Okay, what?
Hey, I'll talk to you forever. How you getting late?
Do you want to stay?
Well, I think I got to do another show here. I'm sure they'll knock on the door, but I'll stay as long as I can. I don't care. If
You
if
have
you'll
said,
me.
okay, fine. I'd like to ask you this.
Sure.
You have admitted that you know who really killed John F. Kennedy, our president. You said you will not reveal the name
Why is that?
until
never said
the
that.
second season of, if your show is
no,
renewed.
no, Howard. Here's what I said.
Go ahead.
I have a way to prove there was a conspiracy, unequivocally.
I don't
Now
believe it.
I can't tell you who did it, but I can prove unequivocally that there was a conspiracy, and we can prove it. I'll just say this by DNA.
Can you prove that it was a conspiracy? Can you name the group of people who conspired? Was it an organized group?
No. What it'll do, it will verify something that I believe, and that is there were 2 Oswalds.
Why wait? Why wait?
Oswald.
Yeah.
Well, now the reason
a
I say
second guy.
that, Robin, is because in the world of espionage, it's not uncommon for them to create 2 people with the same identity. It makes things confusing. If you remember back to Kennedy, they had the Warren Commission had a huge problem because they had Oswald in Mexico City trying to get to Cuba.
Yes.
Well, at the same time, people saw him at the rifle range. They saw him driving a car in Dallas. Well, it was the one guy setting up the other one.
Well, listen, let me ask you something. That you'd have to be pretty bright to put together a conspiracy like that. I mean, it seems to me that somebody was
Why?
really well thought out. Because this is a very involved thing. You're talking about assassinating the President of the United States. You're talking about creating 2 Oswalds. You're talking about creating all kinds of cover-ups.
But you're also talking about
subterfuge.
killing the president.
That's right.
That's a high stakes.
That's a
event.
high-stakes game. I mean, who the hell was behind this? And why wait to reveal this?
Well, because I got to have the right means with my show to go seek out the people I need to seek out to achieve it.
This will be big news if you do this.
No, it won't.
I would have done it the first season.
No, it won't.
I'll tell you.
Not with our mainstream media. Are you kidding me?
I have friends who just came back from the
let's
book
look at it this
suppository.
way.
Yes.
At the very moment that we were all watching the trial of the century, O.J. Simpson.
Yes.
Well, at that moment, there was a jury trial in Memphis that concluded that Martin Luther King was killed by a conspiracy and that the government was involved. How come that didn't get
Is that
headlines?
true?
Yes.
You're
absolutely.
telling me I missed that?
Because no one covered it. We were all watching O.J. That's what our media was giving us.
You're saying there was a trial.
Yes.
And they found that there was a conspiracy to kill Martin Luther King, and the government,
and the government was involved in it.
And it was proven?
Yes, in a trial in a civil suit.
Really?
There was also a
Where was I?
You were watching O.J. like everybody
I
else.
love that O.J.
Our media doesn't cover things
Why
like
weren't
that.
you watching OJ?
I was watching. I was doing morning radio at the time, so every day I'd come home and it was on, and I was an idiot. I was watching it too.
I didn't know about this.
Yeah, it's the truth. Well, there was another trial that took place years ago in Florida. And Mark Lane wrote a book about it called Plausible Denial.
Right.
There was an outlaw paper in Florida that wrote a story stating that E. Howard Hunt of Watergate was involved in the Kennedy killing, which many of us believe he was. He was the old tramp. If you look at the 3 tramps, one of them's Howard Hunt. Even his son identified him.
Now, wait.
And now, this paper wrote this, that Howard Hunt was involved in Kennedy's killing. Howard Hunt sued them and won $700,000 in a slander suit. Well, through a technicality, there was a new trial ordered. The paper came to Mark Lane, who was the first guy to question the Warren Commission, and said, will you defend us? We can't pay you. Well, this gave Lane a chance to depose a lot of these shady characters he wanted to. He went down and defended the case. In the retrial, the jury found for the paper and said, yes, Howard Hunt was involved in the Kennedy killing. Yet, it got no press. The press abandoned. The press were all there, and the minute the jury came out and found for the paper, the press left. They wanted them to find for Hunt so they could tell us, see, Howard Hunt wasn't at fault.
You know, in a way, there's a conspiracy in everything. I was reading about these football players who now all have concussions. They all suffer from dementia. They're young guys. And here you go, and you find out that all the doctors who throw the football players back into the game are hired by the NFL.
Yep.
And they throw them right back in the game. Who cares? So you got a concussion, tough it up and get in there.
Pieces of meat.
Pieces of meat.
Yep.
So now they're talking about finally bringing in independent doctors.
Yep.
But it's a conspiracy.
Well, that was done by my friend up at Harvard, Chris Lewinsky. He's the guy behind all this. He's a former Harvard football player who had to quit wrestling because of multiple concussions.
Yes.
And he knows how dangerous they are. See, it was always
Do you have
laughed
memory
up.
loss?
No, but I had a concussion once when I played high school football, but fortunately I was kept out of the game. But people need to remember what a concussion is. It's a bruise to your brain.
Right. How do we
Now,
know
how could anything be more serious than bruising your brain?
The NFL must have a terrible unions rep. I mean, the fact that they throw these guys right back into the game when they're suffering from a bruise to the brain, as you put it, is unbelievable.
Well, it's all about money and winning. And it's also male ego.
Right.
You know, remember they used to call it, well, he got dinged.
Right.
You know, they got all these little terms. He got dinged.
And then the guy's a pussy if he doesn't go back in the game.
Yeah, he's a pussy if he don't go back in the game.
Meanwhile, he's an old man and he can't even...
Everybody's
And it's all the ego. Yeah, it's all your ego. You don't want to...
All these great athletes, they're almost like vegetables now.
Yeah.
It's awful.
It's terrible.
How do we know who to trust? Can we trust you?
Jesse Ventura is the only one.
Can we only trust you, the host of this great new show, Conspiracy Theory? Are you the only man we really can trust?
I don't know. I'll live or die telling it like it is and being honest. You know, I remember when I ran for office, I admitted I had smoked pot. I admitted everything. And if you do it all out front, Howard, then it's not an issue.
That's why Tiger Woods ought to come clean. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but this is after the fact now, and I like Tiger's stand just because he's standing up to the tabloid journalists.
How do we know you're not a double agent? I mean, maybe you're...
Yeah, maybe you're one of these people just sent around to confuse us.
That's right. How do we know?
There you go.
You're once a SEAL, always a SEAL.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
And always remember one thing, too, Howard.
Yes.
You got to sleep sometime.
That's right. And a SEAL doesn't.
No, we do, but we come when we're least expected.
How do we know you're really Jesse Ventura?
How do you think that's how come I got Hannity so scared of me?
Is Hannity scared of you?
Oh, scared to death of me.
Why?
Because when I went in, I only do Fox Live. I won't do them over satellite because I want to look them eye to eye.
Did you get into a fight with Brian Kilmeade where you almost walked off the show?
No, he walked off.
He walked off.
He walked off.
Why?
Because I was saying that we should be able to ask questions about 9/11.
And he didn't like that.
He didn't like that.
That pussy.
You know, he wasn't going to hear any of that. He walked off.
Oh, he's afraid.
You know,
he's afraid of the real man.
Well,
the real white man.
Who do you call it's afraid of me? Hannity, because I told him what I told you. I looked at him and I said, well, Sean, you know I'm a Navy SEAL. And, of course, he went through the big thing of, oh, yeah, thank you for your service, blah, 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 like them typical phonies do, you know.
Yeah, he never served.
And I looked at him then and I said, so you remember one thing, Sean? He said, what's that? I said, you got to sleep sometime. And so he's frightened of me.
Yeah, well, everyone's frightened of you.
He don't know what I'll do to him.
Here's a tip. Everyone's afraid of you. Believe me.
I don't think so.
Who the hell knows what you're up to?
I'm an old guy now, Howard. I had to get my hip replaced a year and a half ago. And
it's terrible.
You know, and I play golf all the time. Now, you golfer?
Oh, you kidding? Forget it. Look at me. I look like a golf club. I mean, you could use me.
That's why you ought to be one.
That's right.
You know, you don't play golf, Howard?
No. I play chess. Thinking man's game.
So is golf.
No.
Yes, it is.
No.
Not?
Golf's for guys who want to get away from their wives.
True? That's true. Because you know what the 3 worst words of golf are? Well, normally they say you're still out. That's the typical, but here's the real 3 worst words of golf. A woman's voice.
There you go. See? What'd I tell you, Robin? All of Robin's men leave her to play golf.
Oh, my.
Hey, listen, Governor. You're the greatest.
Thank you, Howard. So are you, and I appreciate it because, like I said, when I went on this tour and I saw I was doing you again, I really got excited.
I love when you come in here.
Day.
I love it.
But you know who don't love it?
Who?
My wife.
Why?
Well, because you always got to turn everything sexual, and she's kind of a private person, and of course I have to stand up to you. So I have to tell you that we have sex 3 times a week or more.
And why is she ashamed of that? Why
She's
be
not,
ashamed?
but that's the way she is.
I think it's great. How many years you been married?
It'll be 35 this summer.
35 years, and you're still banging her 3 times a week. You should be screaming that from the mountaintops.
That's the low estimate.
How do you avoid these groups? I know women find you very attractive. You're a very handsome man. You know
you
it.
were
I
out
know
on
it.
the road all the time.
But I don't have hair, Howard. How could I be handsome?
You're handsome. What do you? What you have women who come on to you? How do you advise Tiger Woods if you could sit him in
All
the
right,
room?
here's what
does
you
he do with his sexual?
And I'll bring the Navy SEALs into this.
Please.
We were trained that here's what you do. If you can, it's like taking a choice. Do you walk down the well-lit road when you come to the Y, or do you go to the one that's dark and, well, of course, you're going to pick the well-lit road with people on it rather than the ones not. You have to keep yourself out of the position. I don't go to bars.
Right. You can't go to places.
You can't go to places that'll
strip
tempt
clubs.
you.
You can't go to strip clubs.
No.
If you're a married man, you cannot go.
You don't go there. You don't go to bars. The key is don't put yourself in a position where you can be tempted.
Let me ask you another question then.
Yep.
Isn't it also you have to always think of the consequences? In other words,
Yep.
Okay, I'll get some strange on the side. It'll be good for a minute, but then I lose my wife. I lose the kids. I lose everything.
And you lose half of what you earned all these years.
That's right.
Yeah.
But in the moment, if you put yourself in that position and you're drinking and partying, which is what you do
You
at a
can be
club,
vulnerable.
You sometimes can't have that forethought.
If a man cheats, Governor,
Yep.
let's say it happens.
Yep.
You go put yourself at a bar, and it happens. You didn't want it to happen, but it happened. Maybe you did psychologically want it to. Who knows? Should you come clean and tell your wife or keep quiet about it?
Oh, boy.
Come on. Let's
I don't
go.
know.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
You know everything. Suddenly you don't know?
I don't know that one.
What? But you're a Navy SEAL.
I
Do
don't
you
know.
come clean or not?
I think it would depend on the wife.
I think
the
it's a no.
relationship. I don't really know.
Wait a
I
minute.
couldn't
If she's
answer that.
got a whiff, she thinks something's going on.
She got a whiff, take a shower. That's what I'm saying. All right, as a man, as Jesse Ventura, forget the governor thing.
Yeah. Yeah, but Howard, you
Would you
got to
come
learn
cl-
something.
Yeah.
Jesse Ventura don't exist.
That's true.
So
I knew it.
technically there was no governor for 4 years.
He was absent.
Well, because Jesse Ventura don't exist.
That's your
not
real
who
name.
No. That's just my professional name.
Do you go by your real name with your friends?
Not too much anymore because I've been branded so long, even my friends, because they know that I'm a public figure, they will call me my professional name so that it won't
What does your
cause-
wife call you?
You don't want to. Well, I guess
No.
this is serious radio, so I can say what she calls
What does
me.
she call you? Come on. What did she call you?
She will call me both names.
What is your real name? You don't give it out?
I try not to because it helps my privacy. When you're a villain in wrestling, you got to
Okay.
have an assumed name.
You get
because
death
there's a
threats
lot
and
of
things?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you get death threats, you get all that nonsense. So I prefer. I mean, people know it. You can find out on the internet and all that
Trying to
stuff.
think what your real name is.
I actually thought about officially changing my
Sure.
name, but then I thought, what a disservice to my parents.
When you think
And
about
then,
yourself,
and then I also thought, here's the hard part: you got to get a new social security number and everything.
but here's when you think about yourself, do you think of yourself as Jesse or do you think of yourself in your real name?
Pretty much Jesse now,
Wow.
most of the time.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, because you become
Some name like Vince
John
McMahon
Wayne.
gave you know what I mean?
No, I gave it myself.
Uh-huh.
I named myself.
You did?
Yes.
Why did you pick the name Jesse? Like
well,
Jesse James?
I always loved the name Jesse. I like the
Right.
ring of it. I like it, and I was in a unique position. None of us get to name ourselves. Our
No.
parents name us.
Why Ventura?
Your parents called you Howard.
Why did you change your name? Was your real name not exciting enough?
Well, also for protection. I was a villain.
Right.
And you want a flashy name, So what I did, I initially was going to be a surfer. That's what I wanted to perceive in wrestling. So I pulled out a map of California and I started putting Jesse to names. And when I saw Ventura, Jesse Ventura, boom, the light went
How come
off.
Vince doesn't own your name like he owns The Rock, like he owns Hulk Hogan? How come
Because I had the name before I worked for him and copyrighted it before I worked for
you're
him.
one of the few guys who ever did that. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be able to be Jesse Ventura. He would take it away from you.
No, he couldn't because I had it before I worked for
Well,
him.
you're lucky.
I was wrestling before I worked for him, so under Jesse Ventura. And then I got it copyrighted.
Do your kids use Ventura?
My son does.
He does.
Yeah.
And what does your daughter do?
She's married, so she has her
Was she a
husband's
Ventura growing up?
name. No. Neither of them are.
Your wife, Ventura?
No. None of them. They're my real name.
Real name.
This is why we can't find these people.
No wonder no one can find you.
You know, they're my real name. And
He's in Mexico with. Someone told me your real name is Melvin Shellstein. Is that true?
No.
It is not
I'm
Melvin?
Slovak.
Slovak.
I've never heard Shellstein in the Slovak.
Your real name is not Jackie Martling, is it?
Oh, no.
No, okay, good. All right. Listen, you got to see the show. Jesse Ventura, he hosts Conspiracy Theory on True TV, formerly Core TV.
Right.
Core TV gone. Good. I never watched it.
Yep.
True TV, TRU TV.
Yep.
And I thank you once again for giving us a great
Thank you,
show.
Howard. My pleasure. And again, I'll warn you. You can choose to believe these conspiracies or not, but this show will scare you.
Good
You
enough.
scared us today.
Because it scared me doing it.
Believe me, there's a ton of people on the phone for you, but I think we got to save it.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I'll tell you what. I'm writing another book, Howard, so can I come back in the spring when the book comes out?
Come out, and
All
let's
right.
have everybody call in.
All right.
That's it.
When we come back
All
in
right.
the spring, I'll come back with my
Thank
book,
you.
and we'll do it again. And I still want to come and visit you in the Hamptons sometime.
Let's go. Let's do it.
I can't believe
Give
that
me a
you,
day.
No, that you walk around the Hamptons.
I walk around everywhere. People love me. They love it, and you'll love it, and you will love it.
You're like I am. I describe what I am in politics. I always tell people, look, they don't like me in politics. I'm like the redheaded stepchild that shows up on the day they read the will.
Think about it. Think about it, Governor. You think I'm really out there, or my double is out there? Think about it. Okay.
right.
Yeah,
Thanks, Howard.
Well, thank you.
All
We'll
right.
be
Thanks,
back right
Robin.
after these words.
Bye-bye. Ooh, did we go over?
You were in there for a long time.
Where's my people? I got to go to that other show here.
How'd it go?
Good.
Did you get
Always
some?
good. I always enjoy doing Howard because you can talk free and you don't have to worry about a missed word every now and then that could get him fined.